All right, today we're going to talk about what a lead sheet is and how to read a lead sheet. So the first thing we should know is the names of the chord symbols and what the symbols are. So if you haven't seen my previous videos about how to make major chords, minor chords, diminished chords, all different chords, I would highly recommend watching those first. But this is if you already know it and you want to learn the symbols. So for a major chord, it's just the letter. So it would be the letter C would mean C major, or D flat would mean D flat major. So just keep in mind, a sharper flat added to this doesn't change the quality of the chord. It just makes it so that it starts on a black key. For example, C major starts on C, D flat major starts on D flat. For a minor chord, that is just a lowercase m for minor, or a minus sign, that would mean minor. Diminished chord is either dim or a circle. And sometimes the circle looks a little different than this. It could be a little higher up and smaller. For any augmented chord, they'll either put aug or a plus. Sus would be either just sus or sus4. If it doesn't have the 4, then it's implied that it's a sus4 still. So that chord is, right, instead of C major, we raise, suspend is what it's called, sus, to C sus4 or C sus. Sus2, that's what they'll write, just sus2. Okay, so that's the basic 3-note chords, the symbols of those. Let's take a look at this one here. Oops, let me see the page here. Chord symbols of 4-note chords. There we go. All right, so when we have 4 or more notes, well, this is for 4 specifically, and we'll talk about beyond that. Okay, so a lot of them will be 7th chords and 6th chords. So C major 7 would be written like that, MAJ7, or a triangle can also mean major. Minor 7 will be MIN7. Sometimes they might just put CM7, a lowercase m, or minus sign. Dominant 7, they won't usually say anything about the word dominant. It'll just be C7 or B7 or B flat 7. Diminished 7, once again, DIM7, or the circle and 7. Major 6, once again, major is implied, so C6 would be C major 6. Minor 6, MIN6, or you could have a lowercase m6, or a minus sign in 6. A lot of times, these ones are more common in jazz, and these ones are more common in pop and classical and stuff. Minor major 7 would be MIN MAJ7, or it could be lowercase m and capital M, or less common, but a minus symbol in a triangle, just like a combination of those. Here's the ones with one altered note, minus 7 flat 5, or half diminished, be written MIN 7 flat 5, or the same circle, but with a slash through it. That's why it's half diminished instead of fully diminished. 7 sus would be written like that, like C7 sus. Sus2, there's no other symbol for that, right? Just sus2. Major 7 sus would be written like that. Anyway, so you can kind of get an idea. These are all the same as these, but these each have one altered note, and it's pretty self-explanatory. So dominant 7 with a sharp 5 would be C7 sharp 5, which is also the same as augmented 7, right? C aug 7 or C plus 7. So there you have it. So when we read a lead sheet, it'll always give us chord symbols, if there's a chord present at the time, of course. And then it'll give us a melody. So we're going to take a look at that in a second. And here's a lead sheet, Once in a Blue Moon. So before we go through it, let's just look that some of them have some altered notes in here. So if you don't know what a 9, 11, 13 is, basically if we keep on skipping through notes, so let's say it's G7 that we're playing. G7 normally looks like that, right? The 9 is always a whole step above the root, so here would be the root on top. That would be the 9, skip again, that would be the 11, that would be the 13. So we'll talk about how to include those. A lot of times if it says G7 sharp 9, you'll probably play the basic G7 chord with the left hand, and the sharp 9 will be somewhere in the right hand. And in this case, the sharp 9 is right here, actually, a B flat, if we're in the key of E flat, right? B flat is the sharp 9. So if I'm looking at a 9 chord, root, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9, sharp 9. So B flat or A sharp, right? So to read a lead sheet, the right hand will usually play just the melody notes. So here we have So that's the first line of it. And to make it have the chords too, my left hand would probably just do those. And for anything that needs basically more than what one hand can reach, the other notes can be included in the right hand. So here, the B flat, which is the sharp 9, will be in the right hand, and the left hand can just do the the G7. So let's try and play this a little bit. I'm gonna have to put this down. So that's E flat major 7, G7 sharp 9, C minor 9. I'm doing the 9 in the right hand. F minor 7, C minor 7 with the 11, F7. So I just kind of played through the first line of that, and I'll show you. These were all the ones I had just played. That top line. So to read a lead sheet, you need to know all your chords and the chord symbols. So there's a whole bunch of chords: major, minor, diminished, augmented, 7th chords, 9th chords, 11, 13 chords. I would highly recommend watching my other videos on how to make those other chords. And when we play a lead sheet, the right hand will usually do the melody notes, the left hand will do the chords, and if there's ever something that you need more notes, the right hand can additionally add some of those. So for example, let's even say I was going to play this with my right hand only, which is not exactly common, but E flat major 7, with the E flat being the starting note, right? E flat, D, C, D, which would be, I could have, you know, this would be an E flat major 7. Technically I could do this. And then G7 sharp 9. So here's my G7, and here's the sharp 9. Right, so normally you would spread that one out between both hands. And you can use any inversion of the G7 as long as the sharp 9's up here, you know. So that's how we read through a lead sheet. And one other thing, if we're playing a jazz lead sheet, which is essentially what this one is, if it's a lot of 7th and 9th chords, or if anywhere on there it says anything about that it's jazz, then usually you'll play through the melody, which is the whole song, and then you'll improvise, but you'll use the chords to improvise over. So you'll play like an E flat major 7 with your left hand and do whatever kind of melody notes you want to until G7 sharp 9, and do whatever melody that fits in with each chord. So there's a chord and there's a scale that goes with every single chord. Sometimes there's multiple scales to go with a chord. Well, we'll talk a lot more about that in the improvisational lessons. We've already had a few of them posted, but there'll be plenty more where that came from. So there you have it. That's how we read a lead sheet.